Miami's defense needs to win on first down if they want to win third downs against USF's tempo. And the Canes D needs to communicate.
You are Locked On Canes, your daily podcast on the Miami Hurricanes, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
It's going to be the most unique test that Miami's defense under Corey Heatherman has faced so far, and I can't wait to see how Heatherman's play calling on defense matches up with Alex Golish's play calling on offense. I am Alex Donno, University of Miami alumnus, co-host of Locked On ACC and host of Postgame on the Hurricanes Radio Network. And thank you to the everydayers for making Locked On Canes your first listen. We're available free wherever you get your podcast. We're free on YouTube. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Download the FanDuel app today. On this loaded episode, we'll talk about what Miami needs to do to avoid the upset. We're going to be joined by a very good friend of mine. You guys know I do post-game on radio after Miami football games. My colleague who hosts pregame, Danny Rabinowitz, you probably know him as Hollywood from the Joe Rose Show. He's a USF alum. So he knows a lot about USF. He covers Miami very closely. I don't know if he's going to be wearing like one of those half jerseys where it's like Miami on one side, USF on the other. But I thought if there's a perfect day to have Hollywood on, today is that day. And you know what? We'll probably have him back because my man does a really, really good job. But so I think that this is really a great opportunity to see what Corey Heatherman is made of and what this newly vamped Miami defense is made of. Obviously, we feel a lot better about the defensive secondary, which is good because USF has some big, successful receivers for the O.J. Frederics, Xavier Lucas, and Damari Browns of the world to go up against. But the line of scrimmage is where a lot of these battles are going to be won or lost. And when we talk about the importance of winning on first down, that's the best way to set the tone against tempo because Alex Golish is an absolute demon in calling plays and running his tempo offense because, hey, if you've got second and short, third and short, Golish is not giving you the opportunity to substitute your defensive players because of that tempo it creates when they win on first down. So, you know, one of the few ways, if you want to try to limit, I say limit because negating guys like Ruben Bain and Akeem Mesidor is probably impossible. But if you want to limit the effect that they have on these games, if you have third and shorts rather than third and longs, and you're running this tempo where Miami's defensive line is on the field and they get gassed out because you can't substitute, that can create some challenges. So winning on first down and eventually forcing third and longs, that's how Miami's defense can set the tone to win this football game. And when you're going up against tempo, communication, which is, guys, I mean, covering spring football after Heatherman arrived, covering fall camp, I probably heard the word communication 10,000 times. Anytime you talk to Miami defensive players, anytime you talk to Heatherman or any of his assistants, they emphasize the communication. And so important, not to mention it's something that Miami's, previous defensive coordinator, I'm sure he tried to emphasize communication, but Miami's D didn't communicate enough last year. So that's going to be of the utmost importance in this game on defense. And, listen, Miami has a lot of personnel advantages. Miami's defensive line is probably better than any other that USF is going to face this year. Same thing with Miami's offensive line. They just went up against a very good Florida offensive line. I would say Miami's is considerably better even than the Gators' offensive line. Skill position wise, going up against players like CJ Daniels and Malachi Toney, and the return of JoJo Trader is not going to be a picnic. Miami's big running backs and their running back room is whole again with Jordan Lyle expected to return for this one. So talent for talent, Miami has a ton of edges in this game, but Alex Golish, who's got a talented roster, just not Miami level, is going to try to close that gap with his tempo, with his scheming, with his very big, diverse offensive playbook. But you're going to limit that playbook a ton if you can force that team into third and longs. We've talked about it throughout the week. Miami can learn a lot from where Florida failed against USF. Convert your red zone opportunities into touchdowns. That's something Florida didn't do. Do not commit over 100 yards worth of penalties. That's something Florida did last week, and it cost them big time. Take care of the football. USF won the turnover margin against Florida. Both Miami and USF are +4 in the turnover margin so far this season. So both of these teams have taken care of the football. Miami needs to keep on doing that. And also take what the defense gives you. Miami, I'm sure, with Mark Fletcher and Marty Brown, who've already had a lot of success this season running the ball behind the Hurricanes offensive line, the return of Jordan Lyle, I'm going to assume, a full workload for him because it seems like he's fully healthy again. He was just held out last week for a precaution. So Miami's got their three-headed backfield back at the top of the rotation. Keep pounding the rock because you're going to have an advantage, as we discussed yesterday, against USF's defensive line. And for Miami's passing game, don't be afraid to take what the defense gives you, because if they're trying to limit your downfield passing opportunities, we know Carson Beck is mature enough and he's not afraid to take the checkdowns. If you have to dink and dunk them at times, if that's what keeps moving the chains, by all means, right? When they took the deep ball away from DJ Lagway last week, he didn't have a plan B. Billy Napier didn't have a plan B. Miami needs to have a plan B and a C in this game. I see some Miami fans, and I know I do this sometimes. We love to create this like us against the world mentality. I've seen some people saying stuff like, oh, look at everyone's picking against Miami in this game. To be fair, I have combed the far reaches of the internet. It's something I do every week before Miami plays. Well, not really before the Bethune-Cookman game because, nobody was actually picking Bethune to win. But I did this before the Notre Dame game. I did it this week. I'm going to do it before the Florida game and so on. I do like to, see who the experts are picking. If it means some of the, the big shows, the Josh Pates, the J.D. Pickels, the Cover 3s of the world, all the publications, CBS, Yahoo, ESPN. I like to see who's picking against Miami, who's picking Miami. I haven't found, and you guys can correct me in the comments if I'm wrong about this, but I personally have not found a single publication or a single expert who has flat out picked USF to win this game on Saturday. I've seen a lot of people picking USF to cover the spread. I've seen a lot of people picking USF to keep the game close. I think it was on Yahoo where they actually picked Miami to win in overtime. So talk about keeping the game close. But I don't think I've actually seen a single so-called expert actually pick USF to win this game. Now, what I will agree with you on is there's a lot of people rooting for the Bulls on Saturday. Whether or not they're picking them to win the game, I don't know, but there are a lot of people who are going to be caping up for USF because people love underdogs, and Miami also, especially when Miami is good, makes a great villain. So, yeah, USF is going to be one of the darlings, one of the Cinderellas in college football this weekend. Don't be surprised if you see a lot of people on your social media timelines who are cheering for USF if they do anything good in the game. But yeah, I don't actually see people picking USF to win. I guess we'll find out more when they do the college game day picks on Saturday morning, if any of the experts go in USF's direction. And, when you talk about Miami setting the tone with their defensive front, you look at the pace that Ruben Bain is on so far this year, and I hope he starts collecting, more multi-sack games, because I would love nothing more to see Ruben Bain start showing up on some of these like Heisman short lists. I know he's not going to win it because, let's be real, he plays defense. That just doesn't happen. But I would love to see Ruben get that sort of love. So far this season, Ruben Bain has a ridiculous elite Pro Football Focus grade of 94.7. That's fourth nationally among edge rushers. He leads Miami so far with 9 tackles on the season, 1.5 sacks. He's got 5 quarterback pressures. He's got an interception. He's got 1.5 tackles for loss. He's got a forced fumble, and he's playing like a first-round draft pick so far. And, we're going to need that streak to continue for Ruben Hurricane Bain, who, by the way, one of my Locked On Canes insiders or YouTube commenters, one or the other, reminded me of this yesterday. Ruben Bain did not play in the USF game last year. That was one of the 4 full games that he missed due to injury last year. So one thing you can say about USF, they kept it close against Miami in the first half. They did not have to go up against Ruben Hurricane Bain. I will go head-to-head with my very good friend Hollywood, who's the pregame host on the Miami Hurricanes radio network. He covers Miami. He went to USF. So we're going to go behind enemy lines, but also, be in friendly lines as well. We're going to go across the battle lines here when we come back. You want to keep it locked? We're only getting started on this brand new episode of Locked On Canes. Folks, it's almost the weekend, and it's time to look back and crown this week's MVP on Who Delivered, powered by DoorDash. Just like you can win every Saturday with DoorDash Streaks, saving more every time you order, these players delivered when it mattered most. Let's break it down. For your Miami Hurricanes, I'm going to give this award to Ruben Hurricane Bain, who we just talked about, delivered in a big way, had a strip sack against Bethune-Cookman. That was the week after having a monster game against Notre Dame. Guys, when the pressure was on, Bain came through, no hesitation, no delay. And if you've been watching him week after week, you know that the Bethune performance was no fluke. Ruben Bain is on a streak. And just like Bain delivered for the Hurricanes, DoorDash delivers your Saturdays. With DoorDash Streaks, you save every Saturday you order. Stack it up all season long, and you can save up to $250, including $100 in DoorDash credits. Order this Saturday. Keep the streak alive. Fuel your game day only with DoorDash. Terms apply. Promo period is through November 18th. Thank you so much for making Locked On Canes your first listen. For your next listen, make sure you check out Locked On ACC. And I know you guys sometimes will say Kenton Gibbs, my co-host there, he's a Miami hater. Kenton is picking Miami for a comfortable dub this Saturday against USF, just so you know. Check out Locked On ACC, free, available wherever you get your podcasts and available on YouTube. Really excited here to talk to my very good friend and longtime coworker, Hollywood. We call him Hollywood, Danny Rabinowitz, if you want the name on his birth certificate. And Hollywood, you're in a unique spot here because, you host the pregame coverage for the Miami Hurricanes radio network and 104.3 WQAM. You're also a USF alum. So are you going to be wearing like one of those half and half jerseys to the stadium?
Well, let me show you. Hang on. Is that good for now?
It's all about the U.
This is a tough one, man. This is definitely a tough one. They're yanking on my heartstrings here this week with this matchup, but my allegiances lie with Miami. I've been working around this team for, I don't know, it's got to be 15 years by now, right? Between post game and pre-game and all this other stuff, and I have dear friends, obviously, that work over there, and so I'm very, very tied into that program on a personal level. So I never root against the Hurricanes, Donno.
Well, we gotten that out of the way, and I'm sure everyone in the live chat is loving on you right now, which is great. But you also, you have the unique perspective of being a USF alum and having some investment there, and also knowing more about the history of that program than I do. So let me ask you this. What happened this past Saturday in the Swamp? Was that, because I think it probably was, right? The biggest win in USF football history.
Yeah, I don't believe that it was. So I went to school there. I started in 2004 when I graduated high school. And when I got there, they were in Conference USA. Right. And so I was there for the jump to the Big East and the eventual, they have the number 2 ranking, which, they still, Donno, you talk about clinging to the past. I don't know if you can see this, but it's on the front page of their game notes.
Whoa.
As number 2 ranking in 2007.
That's right.
The Dolphins promoting their undefeated season. It's like, come on, that was a long time ago, man. I'm going to be 40 in a few months here. That was a long time ago, but I go back to that 2007 season. That was a special year because it was a program that came from nothing and just had entered the Big East, and nobody knew what to expect from them then, and so they go into that season, and just to look back, I remember the overtime win against Auburn.
Oh, I
They beat
forgot
Auburn.
about that
Yeah.
completely. This is why I needed to ask you that question, because my USF history goes back like a year.
Yeah, well, exactly. So they go on the road, they beat Auburn, which was like, first of all, people were like, who the hell is South Florida, right? No one even knew that the school existed, and so they go on the road, and not only did they beat Auburn, but they thoroughly outplayed them in that game. They would have won that game very comfortably had the field goal kicker. He was a mess. He was an absolute mess in that game. He was thrown up on the sideline. He was just such a mess. But anyway, they end up winning. Matt Grothe hits Jesse Hester in the end zone for the game-winning overtime touchdown. It was funny. I had to look back. They beat North Carolina that year. And then they had the West Virginia game, which to me was the biggest game in program history. I don't know that there will ever be a bigger game in their program history. They beat I think they were number 5 at the time, West Virginia, and I think it was on a Thursday night, and everyone stormed the field. And that was the first year I started calling games for them, so I was in the booth for that one.
Oh, wow.
And
That
we
had to be
sounded
cool.
so bad. I don't know if the tape's out there somewhere, but it was a bad call on that game, man, because we were just celebrating just like students. And, it was a fun season up until that point. After that, you had the Rutgers game where they got hosed on a few calls. They lost that game, and they proceeded to melt down, and the whole season became kind of a waste. They got beat up in some second-tier bowl game. And the next year, they had another big win. They beat Kansas that next year. They were ranked pretty high at the time, and they fizzled out at the end of that season as well. Then they go and they eventually fire Jim Leavitt, right? And they hired Skip Holtz, and Skip Holtz was the kiss of death for that program, yeah. And he single-handedly destroyed USF football with the help. I shouldn't say single-handedly, with the help of the administration there. It was, look, in 2007 when this thing was rolling, that you got to strike while the iron's hot, right? You got to make some moves, and you started seeing all these teams were leaving the Big East. They're going to the ACC, and USF just kind of sat there. And they were like, well, we're not going to build a stadium. We're not going to improve the facility. Someone will ask us to come into a conference, I get, and everyone's gone now except for them. And you had to watch UCF across the way, who, when I was there, we were beating UCF. They were like a high school team. We were beating them by 50 points. And so you had to watch all these other schools move out of the conference, and USF just stood there and did nothing. And, now they've built the facilities. They're building the stadium. But it's like, for what? Like, what are you guys trying to accomplish at this point? I don't see a path to a Power 5 conference for them, realistically, or Power 4, I guess now, right?
Yeah.
I don't see the path for them, and that's why it's unfortunate. And to be quite honest, it's why it's difficult to be a fan of one of these programs. Like my heart breaks for these FAUs, FIU, USF, these teams, because USF wins 2 games this year, and it's great. It's exciting. And it's like the only talk is the coach leaving.
Yeah, you hear that with goal.
Miami wins a national championship this year. They're not going to go, oh, Mario's gone. Yeah. It's tough. It's tough to be a fan of this. And, typically for the last, I don't know, decade plus, it's been, you'll play a couple of decent, good teams in the beginning of the season. You'll get beat up. And then you'll go and play these, I think our schedule, what's the USF schedule coming up here? North Texas and FAU and all these other schools. And it's like, it's very tough to get excited over it and to really follow it that closely. It's very tough as a fan, right? And they've essentially turned into a minor league for these bigger programs too, because they can't afford to keep the good players that they get.
Yeah. The farm system. Yeah. And something that, even though this may not be the biggest game in USF program history, or last week's wasn't the biggest win, this is certainly one of the bigger games coming up this weekend in recent memory. But I'm just wondering, because somebody made this point to me, and I was thinking about this the last couple of days, in terms of what it's going to take for USF to do it again this weekend, because they just, they won a game at the Swamp, which required so a real physical game. Hollywood took a big emotional and mental toll on them, I'm sure, to win that game, at the death, which is what they did at the Swamp. How difficult is it to try to play with that sort of intensity 2 weeks in a row on the road, mind you? Could there be maybe an adrenaline dump and a letdown for USF this week?
I certainly think it's possible, right? They've played 2 relatively emotional games, Boise, and then of course going into the Swamp is not an easy place to win. I don't care who you are. That's a tough place to go in and win. The only thing I will caution you is that this is it for USF. This is the last meaningful game. I shouldn't say meaningful, because if they win
Right,
out,
conference games and stuff. This is the last really big game. Yeah.
Yeah, but this is it, man. I mean, you're going to play like I said. I think you have North Texas. Name their mascot, Donno. Come on, quick.
I have no idea.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, you have these games left on your schedule, and that's it, man. That's what you have to look forward to. It's South Carolina State. I'm sorry, and then Charlotte. So Charlotte, and then North Texas. That's what you have. That's what you have coming up. And FAU is your homecoming game. Like, this is what you have if you're USF. So I think they will muster up enough energy to go out and really, to give you some coach speak, leave it all out there on the field here this week. The problem is, I don't think Miami will make the same mistakes that the Gators made. If you go back and you actually watch that game, and I know that I'm guessing not a lot of people watch that game, Donno, including those people that vote in the AP poll that moved UF up and didn't rank USF. I'm guessing many people missed that game. UF, guy drops a touchdown pass on the opening drive, right? They settle for 3. The next time down, they get a touchdown taken off the board. It was like a holding call. The next time down, there's a defensive or an offensive pass interference or something. They get another touchdown taken off the board. Late in the game, probably should have ran the ball on first down, milk some clock. They decide to throw on first and third down. Now, the play on third down, if the guy catches the ball, it goes through his hands. If he catches the ball, the game is over, right? He probably could have coasted into the end zone anyway. The game is over. So, and then USF gets the ball back. I don't know if they're going to score or not, but spitting in a guy's face certainly doesn't help.
Yeah, that was a catastrophe.
So I don't think Miami, and I know Coach Cristobal talked about it this week about those selfish penalties. He said, we play for each other. We don't have these selfish penalties. We haven't had them yet. And I don't believe that kind of stuff will happen with this University of Miami team. I think they're an incredibly well-coached team. I think they're incredibly disciplined, and I just don't see that happening. On the flip side, I think USF is very well-coached too. I really do. For the first time in a long time, I think they are a very well-coached team. And I don't think that they're going to make those kinds of, mistakes either. And they haven't, right, through 2 weeks. But I think at the end of the day, Miami won't make the mistakes. That's number one. And flat out, Miami's just a more talented football team, right? I mean, they are more talented at every single position. You could argue, right? I mean, maybe you could talk about the quarterback position. I think Byron Brown is a fantastic player. I think Carson Beck's been really good so far, but I think, really anywhere else on the field, Donno, you can't even make the argument for the Bulls.
I'm with you on that. And this is a perfect segue for prediction time. I'm actually I've already put my prediction on record a couple times this week. I might even change it. I'm not sure, but I want to get one from Hollywood, including key factors.
Can you change?
You're probably right. I can't. I'm not going to change the winner. I might change the score, but you know what?
Yeah, come on. It's like one of those pizza reviews. You can't change the score once you say. What do you have, by the way? What is your bold prediction?
31-17 Miami. Hold on, but before I get yours, we'll take a quick pause here because I want to think about it. If he's going for a blowout, you guys want to keep it locked right here. We got Hollywood with us on this brand new episode of Locked On Canes. Mazda crafts cars for those who do more than simply move. Mazda delivers confidence with every ride, with more IIHS top safety pick awards than anyone else. From footwork to breathwork, athletes sweat all the details. Mazda brings the same intention to how we craft every model. You can feel Japanese craftsmanship in every detail, from the metallic accents to the available Nappa leather upholstery. You can make everyday drives feel like anything but, smooth handling to intuitive controls. Like our players, we sweat every detail. Because when you make every moment count, impossible becomes irrelevant. Mazda, move and be moved. We're also proudly brought to you by FanDuel. College football season is in full swing. The NFL is back, and FanDuel is making sure you're ready for kickoff with a can't-miss offer. Right now, New customers can bet just $5. And if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. I love using FanDuel because it fits however you like to bet. I love player props. I love live betting after the action even starts. Building a same-game parlay is so much fun. It makes every game more exciting, whether you're watching your team or just keeping an eye on your fantasy lineup. It's quick, easy, and the best way to add a little more energy to your Sundays. So are you ready to play? Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet. Thank you so much for making Locked On Canes your first listen. And folks, another big moment on Locked On tonight. College football fans, Locked On and Fire TV present College Football Kickoff, your ultimate college football weekly preview. Drake Toll of Locked On Big 12 leads the conversation alongside two-time AP Coach of the Year Gary Patterson, former college star Jesse Holley, and Locked On's local experts. I'm going to be on the show today, by the way, so check it out. The college football preview only Locked On can do. Catch College Football Kickoff every Thursday throughout the season, only on Fire TV. All right, so I'm going to stick with my 31-17 Miami. I feel like the more I study the matchup and the more I go back and look at all the factors you talked about with that Florida game, I maybe Miami should cover that 17.5 point spread, but I'm going to stick to my guns on 31-17. What are you looking at, Hollywood?
So I think for Miami to cover, it's going to be, something's going to have to happen late, right? Like, USF's driving, down 14 and they throw a pick six or something along those lines. Yeah. Look, there was a lot of concerning stuff that came out of that Florida game. If you're USF, their cornerbacks got toasted, a handful of times in that game, right? Again, guys dropped the ball or there were penalties or whatever. So that's kind of what, caused that to happen with the points getting taken off the board. I think their defensive line did a pretty good job in that game. I think their linebackers are pretty solid as well. They hit hard though. They do. If you watch that Boise game, that Gator game, they were knocking helmets off in the Boise game. I mean, they are going to play. They're going to give Miami a game. They're not going to come down here and roll over. But with that being said, Miami's offensive line, I think, is just going to be too big and too strong. And the other big problem I think USF is going to have is they are going to make Byron Brown one-dimensional, right? Mm-hmm. I think that the way that the Hurricanes defensive line is playing right now, and especially their D tackles, like, because they're going to run that quarterback draw and he's going to go up the middle, right? Yeah. And Byron Brown will try to embarrass guys. He will try to run them over. He's like Josh Allen in the playoffs. They were the same.
He's
number.
Big. Yeah. He's built like a fullback. Yeah.
He is going to try to bulldoze guys. And if Miami can make him one-dimensional, USF's going to have an incredibly difficult time scoring. So I don't know that they get to 17. To be quite honest, Donno, I think they're more in the 13 point range. I just think Miami's defense is going to wear them down. And if they can't run, it's going to be a long day for them. The other thing that they do, which can be good, it can be bad. And I see, guess you talked about it. It's on the screen here, that up-tempo offense, that lightning quick offense that they run. It's great when it works, right? And you have a defense on their heels. It's not so great when you can't move the football. Yeah. And you're 3 and out in 30 seconds and your defense is back out there. How much left does this defense have in the tank, right? I mean, they have had to play a lot in these first 2 games against good teams, right? Against tough teams. And there's been a lot of big collisions and, so how much does this defense have left? I think USF is more in the 13 point range. I think, Miami can put up some points in this game. I think they're more in the 28 point range, which I know is where closer to where you have them. So I think you're looking at maybe like a 28-13 type of thing here. I just think the Bulls are going to have a very, very tough time scoring points. Now, with that being said, if for some reason the Canes run defense is atrocious and it just doesn't show up, it'll be a long night for Miami.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, it could be very problematic for Miami. There's nothing that leads me to believe that would be the case. I thought they did an exceptional job against Notre Dame, stopping their run game, right? So nothing leads me to believe that will be an issue, but that's the only thing that I could foresee why Miami defensively would have a problem in this game.
Well, I love it, and you know what? You talked me back into sticking with my 14-point margin of victory prediction. But guys, and if you listen to Miami's radio broadcast, which you should check them out, especially since pregame starts 4 hours before the game. You're driving to the stadium, you haven't left for the game yet. You want to hear some Canes talk? Listen to Hollywood and Brian Monroe, who do a great job on 104.3 WQAM and also on the Odyssey app. And I host postgame on that same Miami Hurricanes radio network. So huge thank you and shout out to Hollywood. All right. So, and also Hollywood, let people know you're also a big part of the Joe Rose Show, of course, and let people know where they can find you on social.
Donno, I'd rather just promote your podcast. I'm a big fan of the Locked On Canes podcast. I'm a huge fan of you. The Joe Rose show's on in the morning, but please, on WQAM 104.3 WQAM if I must promote. But no, I'm a big fan of what you're doing in the podcast and the coverage that you provide for fans for the Hurricanes, and it's great stuff, man. And let's get a win, because those post game shows can get a little rough.
Oh my God. Yeah, you used to do them. Yeah,
those were dicey times. But hey, man, I gotta tell you, the job that Mario Cristobal has done with this program is truly remarkable. And I do think the other thing, and I talked about this earlier with the administration, the leadership, and all that stuff at USF doing such a poor job. It's the complete opposite right now at Miami, and the president there, Joe Echeverria, has done a remarkable job of committing to athletics, right? And I think you see on the national stage how important it is to have that, financial commitment, because it's Miami's just going to reap the benefits of all these prime time nationally televised games. And what was it? Almost 11 million people tuned in to watch that Notre Dame game.
Right. Yeah. 10. Yeah. It peaked at 11.8. Yeah.
But this week, if you can find where the CW is, I think that's where this game is airing. The CW lucked into this one, huh?
Yeah, and I was telling people, because people are like, well, why is it still on the CW? I think for whatever, like they can't flex games out of the CW. So there's like ESPN and ABC can't just be like, yeah, sorry, we're taking this one back. It's locked into the CW.
No, the CW got a lucky break here, man. I don't know how you access such a channel, but I'll be at the game, so I don't have to worry about
Same. Yeah, well, I think you can literally get it with like the antenna if you hook up the rabbit ears.
Really?
Or, like a lot of people have it and they don't realize it. Like if you have like YouTube TV or Direct TV Stream or Hulu TV, like you have it, you just don't know you have it. The only people who don't have it are the people, I guess, who like completely cut the cord and they just pay for like the ESPN app or so. So if you have some form of like basic cable TV service, you do have the CW.
Well, I hope I'm able to find it, because I think they have Live Golf too. So maybe it'll be one of the people to watch Live Golf if I don't have anything going on the weekend someday.
Yeah, the CW Sports Department is a big deal now, apparently. Well, huge thanks to Hollywood. Huge thanks to the everydayers. And folks, we still have a lot more to get to Friday and maybe Saturday morning before Miami takes the field. So we'll talk to you then on another episode of Locked On Canes, part of the awesome Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.